This episode of To The Point is sponsored by Tarsus. Tarsus Pharmaceuticals applies proven science and new technology to revolutionize treatment for patients, starting with eye care. Tarsus is advancing its pipeline to address several diseases with high unmet need across a range of therapeutic categories, including eye care, dermatology, and infectious disease prevention. Tarsus is proud to announce that Xdemvy, lotilaner ophthalmic solution 0.25% is available to prescribe.
As much as we've learned about ocular surface disease, there is still so much yet to be discovered. The good news is, this creates a world of opportunity for eye care providers.
The goal of this podcast is to better understand this chronic and complex condition and keep you up to date on the advances being made in its diagnosis and treatment. So let's get to the point. Welcome to another episode of the To The Point podcast. My name is Jackie Garlich, and sitting in for my co-host Jessalyn Quint this week is Dr. Cecelia Koetting. Hello, welcome, Cecelia.
Yes, thank you for having me to hang out with you today. I'm excited.
I am so glad you're here because you are such an advocate for ocular surface disease and are lecturing constantly on this topic. So I'm sure many of our listeners know your name. But aside from you being on the podium, you practice in Colorado. You're a member of the Intrepid Eye Society. You're a fellow and a diplomate. You are adjunct faculty for several schools and colleges of optometry. You were named Young Optometrist of the Year in 2019 by the state of Virginia, and you're an avid and insane skier. That's just tip of the iceberg for Cecelia, everybody.
All the hats.
All the hats, yes. I actually just saw a picture of you being like, I'm skiing. And I'm like, you're
yeah,
crazy.
we did. We went for Christmas or for the holidays last week. We went down to Telluride. My sister and brother-in-law and their kids. So we were skiing away. It was fun.
I know. And your knee is good. It's holding up because you had a total knee injury from skiing.
I did. That was the year we moved out here to Colorado, which was to ski. So then I promptly, injured myself about two months in, and had knee surgery. So I've been doing good since.
Okay, good. Well, knock on wood. So
right, early in the season, knock on wood.
Well, okay, so I'm happy that you're here to talk with me about cool things in ocular surface disease that happened in 2024, like new approvals that we saw, and also
we had a number of them. It was a good year.
There were. And we're going to talk a little bit about what we should look forward to in 2025. So there's some kind of exciting things, I think, on the horizon in 2025. So let's start first with just our 2024 FDA approvals. One thing I had on our list that you and I would talk about a little bit about earlier is at the end of the year in November, this Dipl eye device got approved, which is this thermomechanical action technology. It's designed to combine motion and heat with this forward movement of medical grade titanium top. So this is something that for me came out of the blue. I was and I still feel like, what is this device exactly?
I know you sent me the list of kind of things we might talk about, and I went and watched the video because I even reading it, I had to go, I'm not quite sure exactly what's going on here. So I still, it's some kind of device. They're pretty vague, but it's just come out, right? And I don't know anybody with it who's really been able to give me any information, but it's out for meibomian gland dysfunction. And in theory, it's to be treated, it looked like, on the eyelids, but don't quote us, right?
I know. Yeah, don't quote us.
Don't quote us on any of this.
This is a conversation. We're not sure. But it does, when you read about it and go to their website and watch their videos, it is FDA cleared for meibomian gland dysfunction. But when you look, it looks like what looks like microneedling.
Yeah, that
You
was
know,
the video was kind of my take from it too.
yeah, yeah. So, I'm not sure exactly where this is going to fit in our dry eye protocols, but hey, man, we're happy to have another tool in the
I'm not gonna
toolkit.
I'm not gonna pass it up. I will we'll we can assess this next year.
Totally. We'll see how it went when we do the recap for 2025. Yeah. So, okay. All right. So we'll kind of gloss over that one. That one's more to come. But we do have also that was not approved. This was actually approved in 2023, but it launched in January. Is Vivi.
Yes,
Vivi, 0.1% cyclosporin.
the highest percentage
Yep.
in ocular surface disease drop, right?
Yep.
And the vehicle is, I've gotten better at this, perfluoropentyl butane.
Oh, yeah, it's perfect.
There we go. We got it.
Yeah. What's been your thoughts on this? I mean, this is a different vehicle in that, in my experience, if I have a patient who's really feeling like everything burns, this one won't. Patients feel this drop is so comfortable. It's a small drop. We're sort of familiar with the semi-fluorinated alkane because we have MIBO that is a similar concept. So I think comfort wise, this has certainly been good. Have you had a lot of experience? Do you use this for
Yeah.
patients?
I've had a decent amount of experience, especially I try to, especially when new drugs come out, to really just be like, okay, let's get a bunch of you guys going with it. Let's see how it does. Let's figure out where this is going to go and how I'm going to use it in my practice. I do feel like it's actually done really well. I agree with you. Comfort for patients is there. Access to, because they've actually got a pretty good access program for cash pay, which is nice in those cases where somebody has a high deductible or getting denied for everything, right? But the drop, I mean, the studies, when you look at them, they say within 2 weeks, and I'd say it echoes, right? Improvement in signs and symptoms for the patient. So how they're going to do. But I do think it's important to remember it's not the same thing as MIBO. So while, yeah, it does have that semi-fluorinated alkane, different in how they work, but man, does it actually, the semi-fluorinated alkane does work really well as a delivery system for cyclosporin, and actually having a longer retention time on the front surface, I think, is really kind of where it really helps.
Yeah, I mean, I think, now this is our fourth, approved dry eye drop as a immunomodulator. And I think at first, honestly, when I first started trying this, I did the same as you. I just tried to put a lot of people on it. And I couldn't get anyone to get it. No one could get it. I was having all kinds of access issues. And that has totally changed. I don't know what switched or what they did sort of behind the scenes, but I feel like now when I write it, a lot of people get it. It's not as much of an issue as it was. I mean, this makes sense, right? In the beginning, it's always a little bit more of an issue. But
Always the fun part about
yeah, but I
new
feel like
approvals, right?
I feel like it did switch pretty quickly. I mean, sometimes it's like, oh yeah, I can never get this, but I feel like it did switch, and I use PhilRx to send that medication in, and I feel like all kind of familiar now with these more specialty pharmacies, but in terms of access, I feel like this has actually been pretty good, and the drop has been well tolerated by patients. So
Yeah,
certainly,
I think I've only had maybe one patient who didn't tolerate it well, but they also had the same issue with MIBO. So to me, that told me it was the semi-fluorinated alkane. It was not the cyclosporin or the drop itself. And literally one out of probably a couple hundred patients in the last year. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
not too bad.
Yeah, not bad. And also I was surprised I didn't need to try. I mean, this wasn't every patient, but I didn't need to have tried another immunomodulator to get it. That was the other surprising thing. I was like, oh, for sure I'm going to have to try Xiidra or Cequa first. But no, it was odd.
Yeah, and
Oh, I'm getting it?
that may have been that cash pay access program that they
Maybe.
had going for patients. But it's nice because then you just don't run into a lot of the same barriers that we do for getting most new drugs, right?
Yeah, yeah. But don't quote me on that because that was just my experience in
Yep.
Massachusetts.
Don't quote us, guys. Just don't.
We're not a reliable source of information. Okay, all right. So another one that let's talk about. Let's talk about Blink NutriTears. This was launched in June, and this is a supplement by BNL that contains lutein, zeaxanthin isomers, or curcumin, and vitamin D3. And all of this, when you hear those things, you might think this is a retina-derived, supplement or the supplement for the retina, but this is really actually to improve dry eye symptoms. So one capsule a day as compared to
And
some
we're
of
not
the
talking
other.
horse capsule. This is a very small,
Mhm. That's a good point.
tolerable a capsule for our patients.
That's a good point. Yes, it's very small and it's not multiple, which is, a lot of our other things are we're asking them to do multiple, oral supplements or multiple pills with that. So this is once a day, and I think there can be some sort of hesitation. I think among our colleagues, like, oh my gosh, there's so many supplements out there. Like, oh, another one. What how good is this one? But really, they do have really strong clinical data. They saw improvements in OSDI at day 14, and it was sustained through day 56. And at day 56 they saw significant improvements in the NutriTears group in ocular surface staining, patient reported dry eye symptoms, MMP9, and tear breakup time and tear osmolarity compared to placebo. So it actually pretty decent study to show the improvement in the supplement and so quickly.
Yeah, so BNL actually developed this formula from a study that was done in India prior to them getting hold of it, and they found the study and said, "Hey, wow, this is pretty strong data," and so they developed the Blink NutriTier and then did their own studies on it as well, and it was replicated, and I think it's it's been echoed in clinic. I have it with my patients, but I will say love it or hate it, omega 3s I still think have a place. I don't replace it, right? It is added in for a lot of my patients, but to be honest, most of my patients are not not just our early dry eye patients. So I am really trying to find a really most of the time complex regimen that's going to work for them. But it is also really nice to have something for those patients who want to avoid an omega 3 or doctors who find the barrier of omega 3s a little bit daunting to figure out which one to suggest to their patients or which one is good and what's the dosage because we get so much conflicting information with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think this is an additive thing, but as with any of our cases, you've got a plan that you think is going to work for the patient, and then you discuss with the patient, hey, can you tolerate this? Can you tolerate adding another pill to your regimen? You cannot. Okay, fine. Then we're going to do X, Y, or Z. But it's nice to have that option where we have some really strong clinical data showing improvement in such a very simple single pill form.
Well, and cost is actually pretty approachable too. It should be about $30 for um, just shy of a 2 month supply, which is nice. And then for those of us as doctors that like to have things in office for our patients to leave, to buy and leave with, right? You can actually carry this in your office.
Yeah. Do you do that? Do you carry a lot of stuff?
Not at the university I used
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
I got
Yeah.
used to when I was private practice. I thought it was phenomenal. Between that and then getting them set up for like drop ship options just to keep them on stuff. But at the university now, it's like, nah, just I've had to find other ways to make sure I can get it to my patients.
Okay, all right. You're creative. That's good. That's good.
Try to be.
All right, another 2024 FDA approval is the Lacrophil canalicular gel. So this is a derived from cross-linked hyaluronic acid. This is I consider this a customizable punctal occlusion. So this is a gel that is in place of your normal punctal plug, which punctal plugs come in standard sizes. And they don't always mold to fit someone's individual anatomy. So this is the benefit of the Lacrophil is to, be able to fill up the canaliculus and occlude the puncta, but in a more customizable treatment. This is not something that I've used in my practice. Have you had any experience with it?
Outside of the conference halls and meeting with the company and looking at it and playing with it. Was really easy to use. I love the idea of it because I'm not a huge fan of plugs, and I really don't like the permanent ones, just because unfortunately most of the time with most people's anatomy, there's some rubbing that can occur with it. So this is nice where it's going to sit. You'll still have, the flush tissue, so you don't have something with a ridge that's rubbing on the conjunctiva. So I would like it in my practice. It is not currently there. Yeah. I'd like it as an option.
Yeah, I think it is an option. I mean, I think, not every plug works for every patient. I mean, I, personally use both dissolvable plugs and I use the permanent plugs depending on the case. And, with one syringe, you can include both upper and lower puncta. So if you need that in a particular patient, and this lasts about 6 months too. So this is also, not necessarily a permanent thing like our silicone plugs are. And if you need to remove this plug, it can be, simply irrigated out of the system. But I do think it's certainly a unique thing. It is, reimbursable like any plug would be. I'm curious to see kind of where this might fit into everybody's sort of treatment protocol and who's found a lot of success with that. And maybe how I can bring that into my office if that seems like that'll fit, and yours into the university. All right. Last thing is this from the 2024 recap here is the OmniCAD. So this is an imaging platform that uses integrated AI algorithms for ocular surface disease diagnosis. So I got to try this device out at the Intrepid New Tech meeting in November or October, or I think it was maybe
I don't
November.
think it was at the one in the spring,
Mm-mm,
'cause I was gonna say,
mm-mm.
I didn't see this.
This thing is pretty slick. I mean, it's like the
Okay.
Apple looking product of ocular surface imaging devices. So it can do a lot of things. It does blinks. It can judge tear stability. It can judge lipid layer, tear meniscus height. It does a standard sort of transillumination meibography. So just kind of like liposcan, where you have the backlit, to obtain the meibography. This does the same thing. The images are very good. And it includes also this easy to interpret, report that can have suggestions.
That's what I was gonna ask you about, was what is this where does the AI fall in? Like, is it
So it what it
because, like, with
and
ChatGPT, it keeps getting smarter. I'm a little concerned for my job, I'm not gonna lie.
It's going to do better than us. It uses I don't remember exactly how all of the AI is integrated in there, but I know it uses a bunch of images to sort of make a determination on a potential diagnosis for the patient. And I do know that the company, I think, is working on even maybe being able to better mine data with this particular device. Because if you have, all of this data, can it suggest a diagnosis and maybe suggest potential, good therapeutic options? I think it can probably. I believe that if you have your certain treatment protocols that you like to do for X, I think it can sort of make those suggestions after looking at the imaging. But the other really unique thing about this platform is it is so easy to use. So in a clinic where you have maybe a lot of rotating technicians or new staff coming in, this thing is so easy to use. It is very
That makes a
user.
huge difference.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very user friendly. It's it's a newer device, so I don't know who has it in their clinics yet. But I was happy to try this out, and I was like, wow, this thing is really slick. It just looks really cool. It has like a giant screen. It doesn't have a huge footprint, so like some other devices have the device and then the computer screen to the right of that. This is all kind of in one imaging device, so you could put it on one table. Looks pretty cool. Looks pretty cool. OmniCAD. So
I
that's by a
will I
company
will hunt
called.
it down next time we have a conference, which we've got plenty coming up, so,
Yes, we do.
yeah.
I'm sure they'll be there. You should just test it out. It is pretty cool. So this is by a company called by a company called Lumibird. So anyway, so those are a bunch of cool things for 2024. What do we have? What's going on for 2025? What are you looking forward to?
We have a number of things I'm very excited about. So especially in the ocular surface disease area, right? So we've got a Cultramon, which is the TRPM8 receptor. from Alcon,
Yeah.
and they currently have a PDUFA date of May 30th. They released a lot of their data in the last couple of months, but it's a different mechanism for increasing tear production, and helping to decrease a lot of the inflammatory response that we get with it, by activating tryptamate receptors that are on the front surface of the eye. And so they kind of help with recognizing when there's cooling and there's a slight temperature drop. So I like to think about it like when we sweat and it starts to evaporate, that's how our body cools, right? So when the front surface has evaporation of the tears, it cools, and then that tells our body to produce more tears. So by activating that nerve or that sensor on the front surface, it helps to produce more tears. So
Yeah, this
yeah,
is really cool. I think this is like a really novel way to try to increase tear production. We've got nothing else. It's not like this is a new cyclosporin. Like we've got nothing else that is like this at all. And to be honest with you, up until probably last year when they started talking about this, I had never even heard of a tryptamate receptor. I
no,
didn't even know that
nobody
there was a.
had.
Okay, great. Because I was like, I
No.
don't even know what this is. And it's like a cold sensing receptor, like you said. So I was like, oh, when they were started talking about that, I thought, oh, okay, that makes sense. When you go outside and it's cold, your eyes will water. Oh, that's because you do have these cold receptors on the cornea. I didn't know that. I thought that was like so cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we forget about a lot of the really cool things that the cornea does and all those nerves that are there. There's a lot of information we totally forget about.
Yeah, so that's we'll hear mid-year, whether or not this is getting approval. So that, like you said, it's May 30th is their PDUFA date. So that'll be exciting to see. So yeah, that's a good one. And then we still have the Aldera RASP inhibitor as well. That has a PDUFA date of
April,
April.
I believe.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
They
Yes.
finally they resubmitted for second round of FDA approval in November.
Yeah, I
So
think it
I
was
think, yeah,
November.
April sounds right.
Yeah, so that's another sort of different mechanism, and RASP is something that's known to be elevated in ocular disease such as dry eye disease, and it can cause ocular redness, a decrease in tear production, a change in lipid tear composition, an increase in inflammation. So this is a RASP inhibitor is the mechanism of this, which again is not something that we have. So this is going to take, I think, some good education surrounding any launch of this particular medication, assuming it gets this FDA approval. But totally different
So it actually
mechanism.
works higher up on the inflammatory cascade. So there's also some other applications that they're looking at for allergies and things like that that are still part of that same cascade. So it definitely is one to watch.
Yeah, and also, one other unique thing is how quickly that works. Like everything we want to happen in ocular surface disease, we want it to happen fast, and they have data showing improvement within minutes. So that
This is
there's
why Jeff Bezos is rich. It's because we all want everything fast.
we have no patience anymore. I certainly don't.
No.
And then another one here is CLOSI, which is not really ocular surface disease, but the reason I sort of added this to the list is that it is.
Preservative free, which makes me happy. Yes. So, but
Yeah.
this is the 0.4% pilocarpine that is for our presbyopia, right? For modifying presbyopia, by adjusting the pupil size, increasing depth of focus. So don't think of it as, I know it's pilo, and some of us may say, hey, we got kind of burned. Don't. Be excited. Be excited for yourself, for your patients. It's another option. It again, is preservative free, which makes me happy. It's customizable in its dosing. It's up to twice a day dosing, and the studies actually were really positive. I'm excited to get it in my hands to try it with my patients to really see how it works in clinic.
Yeah, same. It is a lowest a lower concentration, about a third of what Vuity was or is, I should say, and the actual efficacy is still wonderful. So we're finding we can get that efficacy with a lower concentration. So that's another good one to look for. And then the last one we're going to talk about, exciting thing for 2025, is Azura. Tell us about Azura. You had mentioned you want to talk about that one.
Yeah, selenium disulfide. Anybody recognize that? Head and Shoulders dandruff shampoo. But this is specifically for meibomian gland dysfunction, and it has three different mechanisms. It's keratolytic, so it actually helps to start to melt the keratin that forms in those meibomian glands. It helps with increasing the meibomian gland expression, so we're getting more meibum. And so the idea here is it helps to remove the obstruction and get those glands functioning better. Which currently, what options do we have that are a prescription to do that? None, right? And while I love my IPL, I love my thermo expression, not all my patients can afford it. And so I like options. And this is an ointment that is used twice a week at night while they're sleeping, which we know is not as hard to get a patient to do than, 4 times a day every day. So that's I'm hopeful for this.
I
I'm excited to
know.
get this in hand.
And this one is an ointment applied to the lids, not even applied in the eye.
Correct.
It's just
Yep.
applied to the actual lids, which is like, I mean, how many times do you ask patients to use an ointment at night and they're like, no.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this is just applied to the lids. So this I am also very excited about. I think they're going to conclude the study at the end of 2025, if I'm right about
Yeah, so
that.
I think this is probably more of our 2026,
Yeah.
um, you know, what we're going to see coming through, but I'm still excited to hear more of it through 2025. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we covered all the things that are not everything. We
Covered a
covered some
bunch.
exciting things. We went through a lot. So this is the point of the podcast, Cecelia, where we ask our guests, and you're my co-host here, but you will also a guest.
I'm
What
okay with
is what is your life lens? What is this thing in your life that has made your life easier? You love having this thing. You've heard some of the different responses we've gotten, but what is yours? What's your life lens?
So I'm going to put two.
Oh,
One is I have a cleaning service, and it makes me the happiest adult I ever can be. I don't have kids. And those of you who are like, well, but I don't have kids. My house isn't dirty. I should be able to clean. No, just get yourself a cleaning service. Just do it. Best adult money spent every month. So good. So good. Number two, is my husband got me a puzzle table for my birthday.
oh, that's spinny?
Yes, it spins and it has like little
Oh,
dividers and it's huge and I love it. And now that I don't have to spend time cleaning, I just do puzzles
oh
because
my
yes, that makes
gosh.
me happy.
Okay, this is really funny you're saying this about cleaning because I don't have a cleaning lady and I do feel like I spend a lot of my time cleaning that I wish I didn't have to. And all of my friends are like, just get a cleaning person. But I just feel, I don't know, I just haven't pulled the trigger on that. But because you
Um,
said it, I'm going to be like, I'm going to do it.
you know what? I was hesitant and I'm like, well, there's just the two of us. We should be able to do this. And I asked my husband, I was like, why don't you do that? He's like, I don't like to. I was like, I don't like to either, but I do it. And he's like, why? We have money. You work hard. Pay someone.
Wait, how many times does the man or woman come to your house to clean?
So they come once a month.
Okay.
So I still do. We've got two very furry dogs, right? So we still do the vacuuming and I keep things tidy, right? But I hate dusting. I hate
Yeah.
doing deep cleaning. I don't want to do
Oh,
any of that. So
all
somebody
right.
else does.
All right. I'm going to
Yeah.
take your life lens. It's good advice. It's good advice. Okay, Cecelia, thank you so much for taking the time this evening to come on this podcast. You have been a great co-host. Thank you for coming.
Well, not as good as the original, but I'm glad I'm here.
Okay, have a good night. Happy New Year.